Therapy TV here on Mangia TV. I'm so thrilled that you're here as a part of Therapy Thursday. As every week, I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Allison Carver, and I am your food therapist, which means I give you tasty recipes just that are tasty and good, but also the recipes to fix your relationship at the same time. And I call that cooking therapy. I take all of my clients into the kitchen, give them these recipes just to fix all of the basic problems that they have. And that's why I do this show. So tonight's recipe that I'm fixing for you is clearing up and just getting rid of all of these expectations that are unspoken in your relationship. Because by the way, that's killing your relationship. So we're going to get rid of those, and we're going to do that by making my black bean and corn salad. This salad is ridiculous. It's so good, and it makes a ton of it. So you can have leftovers for days, serve it for lunches, pack it up in your little containers before you go to work every day, and it's perfect for that. It's tasty, it's hearty, it's very healthy, and it's really, really good. And when you make this with your partner, you're going to get rid of those expectations. So it's a win-win-win all around. Okay, so let's eat. Exactly. Let's get started on this recipe. But before we do, I just want to hear a show of hands from everybody out there. How many of you have unspoken expectations in your relationship? I want to hear if there's any kind of, give me some hands up, give me some feedback if there's any kind of expectations that you know for a fact that you have. Yes, exactly, Bob. Expectations are the root of all evil. So I'm asking this question. It's not a trick. I'm not trying to point you out and say, oh, that's bad. You've got all these expectations. I'm doing this because everybody has expectations. Everybody, all of us have them. It's just a point of who we are. We bring this into the relationship, and most of the time, we don't even know what they are. So that's part of the problem for why they're unspoken in our relationship, because we don't even know what they are. So if we don't know what they are, how in the hell are we going to communicate this to our partner to say, hey, this is what I need from you? It's a mess. And this is why it causes so many problems in your relationship. So that's why I wanted to devote a whole episode to this, because it's really, really important to get a handle on this. Because if you look at expectations, the flip side of that is the word obligation, which is a bad thing in relationships. It's a very gray, slippery slope, thin line, whatever metaphor you want to use, between unspoken expectations and obligations. So the way I see it and the way I feel about this is that expectations are normal and can be okay in a relationship as long as you tell your partner what it is. But obligations, no, not good. You can't have those in a relationship. You've got to understand the difference, and you got to communicate this to your partner. So you're probably thinking, okay, maybe I have some expectations, but I don't know where they came from. They come from a million different places. They come from our families. They come from what we watch our parents grow up or how they treated each other, our past relationships. This is a huge one. If you're expecting your partner to be like boyfriend X over here, that is never going to win, right? That's never a good idea. But sometimes you bring that baggage into your relationship, and that's bad news, right? So past relationships, family, history, and also our ideals, who we want in our life and what type of relationship we think we want. We all have this romantic comedy going on in our head. All that stuff leads into us having these expectations. So they're no good. Okay, so now that we understand, we all got them, they're here to stay. As long as you communicate them, they're not going to be that bad. So what you're going to do is you're going to go into the kitchen and you're going to gather up all these ingredients. So this recipe calls for 3 ears of fresh corn. I have them here. I've already cooked them. I like to use fresh corn. I saw a question on here about using frozen corn or dried corn. Absolutely. You can totally use that for this recipe. Since it's getting to be corn season, I just went ahead and got fresh corn, but any kind of corn you have is perfect. 3 ears is about 2 cups of corn, give or take. So just you can ration that out however you want to do it. So 3 ears of fresh corn. It calls for 2 shallots, 2 cloves of minced garlic, black beans, red pepper, cilantro, my absolute favorite, lime juice, and then the vinaigrette is like a lime juice with sugar and a little bit of olive oil and some salt and some cumin. Amazing. This is the greatest salad ever. Okay, so this is what the ingredients are. So what you're going to do is you and your partner are going to go into the kitchen together, and you're going to start chopping and prepping all of this stuff. It has a lot of prep work to do ahead of time. which I've done some of it, to get started for the show. But while you're doing this, you are going to start having a very honest conversation about your expectations. Because like I said at the beginning, it's a relationship killer. So you might be wondering, why is it a relationship killer? Allison, you keep saying that. Why do you mean? Basically, it's bringing your past into your current relationship, and that's bad news, right? And it's also, you're expecting your partner to read your mind, right? And that's crazy. Nobody can read your mind. There's absolutely no way that that is going to be successful if you're expecting your partner to say, well, I meant this. When I say blah, 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 and you don't do blah, 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 this is how I feel. Things like that, you can't expect your partner to know that unless you tell them that, right? A classic example of this would be something like cleaning the house. So if you in your head have an expectation for what that means, how the house looks, how quickly you should clean the house, why and when and how and all that stuff, you have it all planned out. If your partner has zero clue as to what that means, they're not going to clean the house like you want them to, right? And so then that's going to result in a ginormous fight over nothing but cleaning the house. But if you were to outline and share with them some of your expectations, then perhaps they could meet your expectations and you wouldn't have a fight, right? That's kind of what I'm talking about here tonight. So let me move this over. I'm going to start chopping up my peppers. So you're bringing your past into your relationship. You are expecting them to read your mind, and you're treating your partner unfairly. There's absolutely no way that anybody can reach an unspoken expectation. It's impossible. And it's unfair to your partner to expect them to do that, right? Okay, so chopping up these peppers. So while you and your partner are going to do this, here's step one. You're going to be realistic. So you are going to write down 5 realistic expectations for your relationship. So maybe while your partner's chopping up the peppers or chopping up, the corn or the beans or whatever, you're going to be writing down 5 realistic expectations. Now that should be easy, right? There's lots of things that can go on this list, and they don't need to be super serious. I think they should be very common things that you deal with in your relationship, like cleaning the house. That's a big one. Or how you plan to spend your weekends. Things like that. Things that you might typically fight about, put that on your list. 5 things, right? So let me hear, what are some ideas? What are some 5 things that you guys think you might put on your list? Cleaning the house, a good one, like I said. Managing childcare, another big one. What are some things you might put on your list? All right, and as I do this, I'm just putting the red pepper into the bowl. This is a really easy recipe, which I'm sure you know by now. That's how I roll, especially with my cooking therapy recipes, because I want you talking. I want you to be talking to each other and really coming up with some great conversation to fix these problems. That's how this works. So let me just get my towel here. Okay. Bob says, putting up the toilet seat. Hey, if that's something that you fight about in your house, put it on your list, right? There's no shame in that. Put that on your list. Okay. Just got my big bowl right here. Doing the dishes. That's a great one. Hey, Mark, thanks for joining us tonight. That's a perfect one. Doing the dishes. Being in the kitchen, how are you going to divide up the tasks of doing that? Another expectation. Sometimes if you have a day, you come home from work and you kind of thought, oh, she had all this extra time because she only worked a half day. So I bet when I go into the house, she's going to have had cleaned up the kitchen and made dinner for me. Yeah, she didn't do that because she didn't know that was something that you were thinking about, right? So that's a good expectation. So anyway, so while you're making this list, I want you to remember to be as specific as possible. Don't say clean the house. I want you to say exactly what you mean by cleaning the house. Break it down list by list, point by point. Like break it down and really be clear and succinct in what you mean about these expectations. All right, so I'm going to just start dumping into the bowl because that's really what you do. You're going to chop everything up and you're going to combine it into a big bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and combine this in. Has anybody ever made a corn and black bean salad before? Give me some hands up. Let me hear some interaction. This is a great, like I said, this is a great recipe, and you can tweak this however you want. I'm adding in 2 cans of black beans. These are just black beans that have been rinsed and drained. You can use dried also, which I actually would recommend because using dried beans is so much cheaper than buying them already in a can. Just remember with black beans, you're going to want to soak them overnight, And then you're going to boil them after they've soaked for 24 hours for about 45 to 50 minutes on medium-low heat just to get them nice and soft. But once you've done that, a bag of dried beans gives you like 8 cups of beans. It's crazy. And then you can freeze them in the freezer. Excellent little tip for you. Okay, so here we go. I got my black beans and my red pepper. Now I'm going to add my corn on the cob, and I'm just going to slice this right on the cob, right like this. Now remember, while you're doing this, you're talking to your partner, you're setting realistic and specific goals. So, and this is one of those things that you don't usually take the time to do. In most relationships, you don't take the time to talk about expectations, but I'll tell you what, you certainly take the time to fight about expectations. Guarantee you're fighting about this, and this is 100% the way to fix that. The way to stop doing that is to talk about this and to come up with a game plan. Okay. Yes, I boiled the corn. Thank you for that question. Yes, I boiled this corn. It's been cooked, 25 minutes or so in the water. You can also grill this. Would be actually even better if you grill the corn right on the grill. Oh, that'd be even better. Okay. Oh, I love this. Yes, Amanda. Jalapenos and avocados and pineapple. That sounds to die for. That sounds amazing. Okay, you can add anything into this recipe. Any kind of flavor that goes well with cilantro. You can easily add this to this recipe. So here we go. I know cilantro is my absolute favorite thing in the entire world. I just found out recently that my mom actually doesn't like cilantro. I'm like, are we related? Because I positively love it. I would put it on everything if I could. I know. I can't believe she doesn't like it. Okay, so as you see, I'm taking this. It's really easy to do to slice this off. Just get a really sharp knife, and you're just going to slice this right off. Yeah, exactly. So let me hear, how do you guys think about this expectation thing? Can you own up to maybe one of yours? You want to share it with the group? I would love to hear what some of yours are. I think for me, I'll start. For me personally, one of my expectations is always about like time management or multitasking. I think as women, typically we over function and over multitask all the time. So sometimes, often, all the time rather, let me be honest with you all, I assume that my husband's on the same track with that, and he's not. He doesn't multitask as often as I do. So I think we struggle with that. I assume like, oh my God, you had 2 hours, why didn't you do X, Y, and Z? And it's one of those things that we have to work through, and I have to own that, and I have to share it with him, which we do. Okay, so that is the corn. Now I'm going to add my 2 cloves of sliced garlic. Another thing you can never have too much of. This recipe calls for shallots instead of yellow onion. You could always substitute yellow onion, but I'm a big fan of shallots. I think they add a really interesting flavor, and if a recipe typically calls for shallots, I usually will say just buy the shallots and use the shallots because it adds that really, really good flavor. This salad too is so pretty. I don't know if you can see all the different colors. We got purple and black and red. Ah, oh, so good. I'm so excited to eat this. Okay. I'm going to start adding in the vinaigrette. We'll do the cilantro at the end. So the vinaigrette is going to be, let's see, it calls for 6 tablespoons of lime juice. So so 6 tablespoons, you're just going to dump this right in. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is just organic lime juice I found at the store. You can certainly squeeze your own limes if you'd rather do that. For the sake of time, I didn't, but you can certainly do that. And then also calls for the zest of 1 fresh lime. Some zest. Oh, it smells so good. You're going to want to make this ahead of time, and then you're going to let it soak. Not soak, that's the wrong word. Marinate in the refrigerator for overnight. This is one of those dishes where the longer the flavors mix together, the better it tastes. It does call for fresh avocado. So if you're going to do this overnight, I would leave the avocado until the day you're going to serve it. Because as we all know, avocados turn brown and gross, and you don't want mushy avocado, and this will ruin it. All right, fresh lime zest. When you're zesting, remember you're going to want to use a grater. This is just a cheese grater, but you're going to stop when you get to the white part of the lime. Can you see that? So you don't want to do any more than that because it's going to get bitter. You just want the green skin. Okay. All right. There we go. So now that we're mixing all of our ingredients together, I'm making my vinaigrette. You are going to decide, the third step to coming up with how you're going to eliminate these expectations. So you've owned them up, right? The first step is you've written down your 5 things. Now what you're going to do is you're going to tell your partner, how are you going to show more compassion and more patience towards your partner as they explain to you their 5 things. So I want you to really tell your partner exactly what it is you're going to do in order to help them to get over these expectations. Because a lot of this is practice makes perfect. It's not going to happen overnight, but I want you to tell your partner, how are you going to specifically show more kindness and more compassion? Because let's be honest too, we all can show more kindness and compassion, really, truly. Okay, so this is going to be 2 teaspoons of salt. So that's really the third part of this, is just understanding what your partner said. You're going to share your list with each other, and you're going to show that compassion, and you're going to just understand where they're coming from, and you're going to try to meet these expectations without being pissed off about it. That's really what I mean when I say practice more kindness and more cooperation, because you're a team and you got to learn to do this stuff together. I just added 2 teaspoons of salt just by eye because I'm too lazy to measure it out. I'm going to add a dash of cumin. Another thing, I love cumin. Another amazing flavor here. And just a dash. If you don't like this, you can leave it out. I love it, so I'm adding it in. Okay, let me make sure I got everything. Oh, sugar. Oh, you also want to add 2 teaspoons of sugar. It's a good thing I have all my ingredients out here. Otherwise, 2 tablespoons. My bad. Otherwise, I would totally forget what's in this salad. 2 tablespoons. Probably seems odd that I'm adding sugar, right? You're probably like, what in the hell? This is going to cut a lot of that tartness of lime juice, because remember, we added 6 tablespoons and a whole zest of a lime. So you want the sugar to help kind of break down that flavor. 2 tablespoons of sugar. I promise, it's going to taste amazing. And then olive oil, it calls for 9 tablespoons of olive oil. This is really what's going to bring that vinaigrette together. This is a part of the cooking show, right, where they would sub in the music. They make it go faster, right? 9. Okay. So we've added our 2 cans of black beans. We've added our 3 ears of corn, the red bell pepper, the garlic, the shallots. We've added the olive oil, the zest of the lime juice, the cilantro I'm going to do just now, the salt, the sugar, and the cumin. Let me give this a good mix here. All right. So yeah, like I said, I love seeing this conversation going on about the expectations. I love that you all are owning your expectations. We all got them. So it's really just necessary to just, like I said, own it and just start talking about it. Because the truth is, an expectation that's unspoken becomes easier and healthier in your relationship once it's no longer unspoken. You know, once it becomes a point of like conversation and that your partner is aware that this is something you need and you want from your relationship, it automatically becomes healthier for you. If you're keeping this a secret and you're not sharing it with them, that's when things get really bad. You need to make this recipe and you need to share these things with your partner. So this calls for a ½ cup of cilantro. I'm just going to dump in some because, like I said, we talked about this already. I love cilantro. And I'm just going to rip it. Just going to rip it right up. So are you guys excited about this recipe? This is super fun, right? It's so delicious. Oh, it smells so good in here. More cilantro, absolutely. So you guys know when you're doing cilantro, leave the sticks out, right? You don't want the twiggy part, you just want the leaves. And if I was, properly doing this, I would be chopping it, like I said, but I'm just ripping it right up and dumping it in. It's gonna be so good. You want to let this marinate in the fridge overnight. So you can definitely make this ahead of time for any barbecue or, like I said, for lunches. This is a great Sunday night recipe. So you have your lunches prepared all week. A serving is about a cup, but you can really tweak that if you want less or if you want more, whatever. This goes great on lettuce. It goes great with quinoa. It goes great straight by itself. And if you want it to be room temperature or cold, that's really a preference up to you. I actually like it to be a little bit more room temperature than cold. But that's just how I roll. That's really however you roll is how you want to make it. I'm flexible in these parts. I'm taking out the sticks. And again, it calls for 2 avocados. Since I'm making this for my dinner tonight, I'm going to have, I'm going to cut up some avocado. But otherwise, I would suggest leaving the avocados off until you're ready to eat this. And what you're going to want to do with the avocados, slice them up, and you can chop them real good, or you can slice them and just plop it right on top of your plate. And it just adds this nice, fresh, creamy flavor. It's so good. Okay, so I got everything in here. And can you see how delicious this is? Look at this. Look, look, look. Look how gorgeous this is. Oh, it's so pretty and so good. I'm just going to sneak a little taste because I have to. Oh my God. It's so good. This salad is so good now. So you can imagine once the flavors really come together how much better it's going to be. So remember, when you're doing this with your partner, you're going to go into the kitchen. You're going to grab all of these ingredients. You're going to make, you're going to get 2 pens, get a pad of paper, and you're going to be focused on sharing and owning what are your expectations in the relationship. And then you're going to also own how are you going to help your partner to get through this, to be more open about the expectations so that you can make them open, make them happening in the relationship, make them not so secretive so that it can be a benefit to the relationship, right? Because ultimately, like I said, when expectations become spoken, they're automatically good for your relationship and you're allowed to have them. And use it as a way to gain understanding as to who your partner is and what they're bringing to the relationship. We all have a past, right? We all have had experiences or things that have happened that we bring to the relationship, whether we know it or not. And so using these little trinkets of info your partner's giving you will help you to understand them better. It will help you to understand where they're coming from and how this is going to help your relationship overall rather than hurt your relationship. Because when expectations become spoken, they turn good. When they're unspoken, they're bad. You're setting your partner up for failure. You're expecting them to read your mind. All that stuff is bad news. You want to be open and honest and talking about this. And that's what you get to do when you make this recipe. Not only is it amazing and delicious, but you get to finally talk about the expectations. Put them in the room, write them down, come up with a game plan for how you're going to implement them into your relationship. And I promise, it will help fix your relationship. I promise. So are there any questions about this recipe? I hope you're all excited about doing this. I hope you all go out and get these ingredients and do this because it's so good. Let me see if I have a question. I feel like I do. Let's see here. Oh, artichoke. Absolutely, you could add artichoke to this. That would be amazing. Mango you could add to it. Oh, lots of good things you can add. So I've got Blog My Lunch. Hello. I don't think I've seen you before. Thank you for tuning in. Looks like you've said something about problems when people lie. Do you mean like when people lie about what the expectation is? Do you mean like if they're not being honest about what they're thinking? I'd love to hear what you think about that because I'd love to answer your question. So good. I think what she means is if people are lying and not sharing about what they really want, certainly it's no benefit to anybody, right? So I think right then and there, if you know that that person is lying, I would, like us therapists say, put it in the room. I would challenge them on that nicely, of course. I wouldn't, totally jump down their throat, but I would be like, listen, we're doing this because we're trying to make our relationship better. And the fact that you're lying about that is not helpful. It's not going to do anything. So until you're honest, I don't think we should make this recipe. That's what I would say, actually, if someone was lying about what the expectations are. And remember, like with all of my cooking therapy recipes, you want to do this when you're both in a good place, not when you're coming off of a fight, not when you're super tired, not when you've had a really crappy day. I want you to do this when you're in the mindset where you're ready and willing and able to fix your relationship. Truly, that's the best way to do this. Do we have any other questions or comments about how to do this expectation thing? You all understand that unspoken expectations bad, spoken expectations all good. And remember, the other flip side of expectation is obligation, and that's also not good. So it's important to keep this realistic, keep it in check, and just to be open and honest and compassionate with your partner, and understand that, you know what, we all bring this into the relationship. We all have expectations we're bringing. Let's just own it, talk about it, and come up with a solution. And you get to make this delicious dish at the same time. So total win-win-win. So I love all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. If there aren't any other questions, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. But remember, this recipe can be found at my website, which is tasteoftherapy.com. Just search black bean and corn salad, and it'll be available for you tomorrow. Also, make sure you tune in to me every week here, right here on Mangia TV. I'm live every Thursday night at 7:30. And every week I'm going to come up with a new cooking therapy recipe for you and your partner to fix all those pesky problems. Just fix them already, right? We're going to make your relationship better and happier by doing cooking in the kitchen. Thank you to Mangia TV for having me. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. I can't wait. Bye. Thanks again.